shirt, come outside, have somewhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be giving you the tactical breakdown because I was opportunity to speak with one of the Burkina officers that works in the VDP unit, and he gave me a breakdown of what happened in the Eastern Theater of Operation around the lead Paco. He made me understand that the Gayeri operation happened in the lead Paco Goma region, and he said the attack was, orchestrated in a way that the JNIM and the Islamic State in the Sahel, they wanted to create a sort of, um, should I say, a sort of, they wanted to overwhelm and saturate the structure of the command control in the Eastern Theater of Burkina Faso. And after talking to this man and getting his first-hand, getting the first-hand experience, I just felt like, man, these guys are they're trying a lot in Burkina Faso. And the fact that the Burkinabe military, they are sort of, Burkinabe military is not taking assistance from anybody. It means that we need to give those guys a lot of credits. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into the tactical breakdown based on what he told me. According to information, he said this is the largest number of kills in any single day in the history of Burkina Faso. It has never happened before. Burkina Faso have never in a single day overwhelmed this number of enemy militia before. And given the fact that it was a tactical coalition of both JNIM and, he said, probably Islamic states in the greater Sahel. He mentioned the name, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at it for a moment. 400 KIA in a single day, and it was a coordinated offensive. The 400 did not attack a single location. No, they attacked 3 different locations. And a lot of people will ask the question, why did the JNIM and the Islamic State, why did they attack the military post first? They had to attack the military post because for you to have operational impunity, let me put it that way, for you to have operational impunity and for you to have the freedom to do what you want to do inside Eastern Burkina Faso, most especially going to the communities and all of that, you need to overwhelm the only defense structure that have been put in place to protect the people in that environment. And apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, let's get something clear. When a military, let's say a rapid intervention brigade with a VDP component, when they successfully neutralize 400, you know what that means tactically. From an analytical standpoint, it means that let's say they were so unlucky. That means you have just saved, let's say, minimum of 800 lives or probably 1,000. That's what you have just done. You like a single enemy combatant cannot neutralize one person. So let's just say they were unlucky. People were not around, which is not true. People were surely around. So how many civilians do you think 800 fully loaded enemy combatants would have knocked out? So it goes with the narrative because according to him, he said this was happening after Burkina Faso had to break their diplomatic relationship with France. So, and if you look at what the French general that was a parliamentary member of the European Union, if you look at what he said, he was trying to undermine the security efforts of the Burkinabe armed forces and their president. So imagine if 800 people, or let's say 1,000, just look at that scale. Imagine if 1,000 had died. The world was going to say the French general was right. They were going to call him a general and they were going to say he has years of experience, that everything he said was legit. That imagine 1,000. And they were going to come up with the narrative that we need to go and save the people of this place because their leadership can no longer handle the situation. they would have said, we need to go and save them. At this point, we cannot let somebody, this was going to be the narrative, which was probably prepared, that we cannot let a young man out of nowhere put the life of those people that are so dear to France, that is so dear to France and precious and sacred and whatsoever. We cannot leave it in the hand of a military that is not, And they were going to pull in. And you know why they were going to want to pull in? Because Burkina Faso has no foreign military component, maybe foreign expeditionary unit or whatsoever. Burkina Faso is defended by 100% Burkinabe forces. All right? So I want you to sit down and look at that number, ladies and gentlemen. And for a moment, because what happened on the 30th in Eastern Burkina Faso was not just statistics, ladies and gentlemen. It was the largest single, deneutralization in the history of the country, in modern Burkina Faso, and even in military history. And the way it was done, the tactical architecture of this operation, ladies and gentlemen, it tells us everything that is there to know about the operation of the Burkinabe Armed Forces. You see, I'm going to break this down in a way that you all understand, because I can't be using all the military terms that VDP personnel used, all right? Because he talked about the geometry of the attack, he talked about the integration, and he said specifically, and I quote, that the Burkinabe Armed Forces deployed their A-29 Super Tucano with some Baratia drones. And he said the A-29 Super Tucano was deployed from the E-16 squadron outside Ouagadougou. That was what he said. And if you look at the materials that was recovered, it means that the attack was carefully planned. They had Starlink satellite. He said they did not have a single Starlink satellite. The video that was posted was from a single location. So that particular location, they had one Starlink satellite. And the attack happened across 3 different theaters of operation. 3 different. They tried to saturate and, overstretch the military and their command control structure so that they cannot really focus all their resources on one single point. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at everything, according to what he said, the first attack took place in the Seba region. He said that region is close to the border of Niger. And he said whoever controls that corridor, that's Seba region, because he said that is where the Gayeri is. And he said it's one of the major infiltration routes for the Islamic State in the Sahel province that are coming from Niger into Burkina Faso. Because he said the Islamic State in the Sahel province, they are trying to dominate that corridor so that they can always deploy from Niger into Burkina Faso. And he said the second region they attacked was the Litspako Goma region, and this is the tri-border region. He said the Soha region, something happened in 2021. According to him, he said 130 civilians were killed. And he said this particular attack was very similar. Like the modus of operation was very, very similar, and it was a coordinated attack between the 2 groups too. He also said something, and I quote, he said, this particular Litspako Goma region has been contested for years. He said even when the MINUSMA, that is the United Nations security forces, were in Burkina Faso, they were in Niger, they were in Mali, they could not contain that region. And the reason why that region has been very difficult, he talked about mineral deposits that are very, very essential, like lithium. He said it's very, very much in this particular region. Now we know something, that in Africa right now, when you see insurgents in your region, just know that you have some strategically important mineral in that region. Now, you see, from everything he told me, right, the tactical sophistication of the operation, because this was not the first attack actually. This was just the Rapid Intervention Brigade. And it was not the most elite of the Rapid Intervention Brigade. Now, let me not take away credit from all the Rapid Intervention Brigade in Burkina Faso. I think everybody in Burkina Faso that deserves to be called a Rapid Intervention Brigade, these guys are elite. Okay? And this is not a ragtag operation, according to the information we have. Said this was a battalion level assault designed to overwhelm the command control. He said they were trying to create a dilemma. He said they were looking at which position should they overwhelm first, because the Burkinabe front line was heavy on every side they attacked. So it's like you are trying to probe. That was the first thing they tried to do, because everywhere they visited, they knew that the Burkina Faso armed forces they were heavily prepared. Capabilities for capability, personnel for personnel. The tactics of the JNIM over the years have always been, okay, they know that you are better than them, so they come with a superior number. So when you see the numerical advantage, it will demoralize whoever. But the guys in Burkina Faso are seriously battle hardened, ladies and gentlemen. So they were probing, they were trying to find the position where the line was going to break. But unfortunately, the line did not break. Now, if you look at what the General Staff of Burkina Faso said about this operation, you understand? He said the attackers approached each position using motorcycles. I think they said 250 motorcycles were recovered after the battle. So 250 motorcycles is not small. And you know how these guys be deployed, even in Nigeria here. In Mali there was this motorcycle length that was banned, because on a single motorcycle sometimes you have almost 3 guys that have belt slings of ammunition, that have GPMGs like the PKM rifle, AA. You have them carrying these rifles. Now, this shows us that this was not a small riding group. And when you look at the axis, the way they distributed themselves, that means you might have like from 100 to 150 for each attack. I don't care who you are, but if 150, 100, 130 fighters attack your position that are fully loaded and they believe in 72 virgin principle, they don't care if they die, they are ready to go to the kitchen sink with you. You definitely know that your metal will definitely be tested. So, and if you know, these guys, they use motorcycle most of the time, because in Niger, they try to use pickup trucks. They try to use pickup trucks and the mounted GPMGs. Now, immediately the Nigerian armed forces deployed their Aksongo drone and their TB2 drones. They were able to destroy all the pickup trucks and the heavy weapons that was, put it on top of it. The reason was because they discovered that when you pull up a pickup truck and you load personnel, it is easier for the aircraft to destroy everything you have on that pickup truck and even the pickup truck itself. Like it's like you're packing people together to get roasted. So this time around they decided to use the motorcycle. And the reason why they decided to use the motorcycle is because it gives them the opportunity, the ability to disperse rapidly if air asset arrive. Understand? But it has a critical vulnerability, which I will also come to. That's the motorcycle. It has a very, very critical vulnerability. So the time they attacked perfectly, they attacked 3 positions, but it wasn't successful because the Burkinabe armed forces stood still. And not just because they stood still. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has played a very, very significant role in Burkina Faso. Every territory that have been recovered in Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré used to travel to those territories. He used to travel there and he would go to the men and he would speak to them one-on-one. So this is not just some democratically elected president. Now, I want a lot of people to tell me, apart from Paul Kagame in Africa, all right, apart from Paul Kagame in Africa, I don't think there is any other president that can visit the front line. Not Alassane Ouattara, not, I love Romuald Wadagne, he's all love, but I can beat my chest, he will not even come close to any of the front line in Benin. So a lot of people are saying, and even intelligence experts, they are saying that the reason why this attack took place, they are not even hiding it anymore, was because of what France said. They said this attack was supposed to be a justification of the narrative from France. Now, if that was their calculation, they miscalculated catastrophically, all right? Because according to information, the Burkinabean forces deployed the Barakte Akinci drone, they deployed the TB2, and they also deployed the A-29 Super Tucano from, the E-16 squadron outside Ouagadougou. And according to information, the probing by the Barakte Akinci, was to destroy the heavy concentration of the JNI. So what it meant was the JNI were trying to bypass the trenches because they already arrived at the military bases. So what they wanted to do was to bypass the trenches. But according to information, the Barakte Akinci drone started knocking the boys down. And it was hitting them where they were heavily concentrated. So that alone would have demoralized them. Now they needed a very significant firepower with a sort of TNT that has a very enormous blast radius. And when the A-29 Super Tucano came, the casualty was beyond measure. According to what the officer said, he said they deployed the A-29 Super Tucano B. That was what he said they deployed. And he said, he talked about something like MAMC and MAML. That those were the type of missiles that was deployed for this particular operation. So, and after they knocked these guys down, 250 motorcycles was recovered. Now, when they say 250 motorcycles, ladies and gentlemen, that's not all the motorcycles that was recovered. 250 motorcycle was recovered intact. There were some motorcycles that you cannot recover anymore. They were completely sabotaged. There were some rifles that the Burkinabean forces could not recover intact. I think we posted some pictures on our Telegram channel, and if you look at those images, you can see where AK-47 rifles, they were broken. So, I mean, this was a serious, destructive attack. Now, according to the initial reports that we received from so many people, that nobody got hurt, he said that 3 officers were injured. And I think he said that later, one of them, why they were trying to rehabilitate him, actually gave up. And he said the condition of the 2 other officers right now, he cannot speak on it. So that is the operational situation, that situational report of the 3 officers that are, And I don't know what the latest is. I don't know if those 2 other officers I don't know if they will make it, or he did not give me the specific detail, like it was not clear if they will survive it or they will not survive it. So, I mean, this is a big victory for Burkina Faso. And the reason why it's big, I will continue to say this, it's not because of maybe, they are under the security umbrella of certain people. No. I'm sorry to whoever is going to get offended with what I'm saying right now, but I have to say this. Burkina Faso is everything when it comes to defense and security in Burkina Faso is 100% Burkina Faso. They have their, foreign diplomacy with whoever, and currently they even have diplomacy with Israel. And Israel has been beating their chest, and the Israelis have been pumping their chest that they have a lot to offer Burkina Faso. They said in the field of irrigation, the Israelis also said they can offer Burkina Faso a lot when it comes to military, intelligence, technology. Well, let's see what Israel has to offer. And don't forget, Burkina Faso they have collaboration with Iran.
So Burkina Faso has collaboration with Israel. Burkina Faso has collaboration with Iran. So I want to see how Burkina Faso is going to be able to have those type of guys in the same building, having Israel and Iran in the same building under the same diplomatic canopy, ladies and gentlemen. I kind of think it's almost impossible, but what Burkina Faso cannot do does not exist. So I'm banking on Burkina Faso to pull up to pull up a miracle when it comes to that. You know, and you can. And when I listen to what the Israeli representative said, he said, and I quote that Burkina Faso has nothing to do with whatever is going on in the Middle East. He said it has nothing to do with them. That Burkina Faso is a sovereign state and they can decide on whatsoever they want to do. He really, really, said some things. And for me, when I look at what Israel has promised to offer Burkina Faso, I think they definitely can offer Burkina Faso some things when it comes to sharing of technology. We'll be waiting to see, and we can't deny the fact that Israel has some tricks up their sleeves when it comes to defense capability, like the short range defense. When it comes to the Iron Dome, all right. But we'll see what happens at the end of the day when Israel comes to Burkina Faso and Iran too. And currently, we have the Turkish armed forces. As we speak, Turkey has now reached a bilateral cooperation with Mali. They have sent their diplomats. I'm talking about bilateral cooperation when it comes to defense, when it comes to security, when it comes to economy, when it comes to intelligence sharing, and when it comes to the transfer of technology. I don't know if Mali wants to get technology that will help them sustain the rate at which they are firing those TNTs from the Barakte Akeshi and the TB2 drones. It would be better if they can indigenously manufacture the capabilities by themselves. But I don't feel like Turkey would be willing to export that, you know, um, those capabilities. I don't think Turkey will be willing to export the capabilities because I think it's one of their geopolitical tool for power projection. Yeah, it's one of their geopolitical tool for power projection. But one thing that we cannot deny at this point is that for Burkinabe armed forces to neutralize 400 terrorists in less than 24 hours, let's be very, very clear on that. And for Niger to neutralize as many jihadists as possible, and the Malians continue to intensify their operation across all the theaters of operation. What I do believe at this point is that the Sahel is making it loud and clear. And because of the statistics that we've just received, Burkina Faso is spearheading the Confederation right now, and they are saying it loud and clear that they don't need France and they will never ever need France again. Ladies and gentlemen, you can actually tell me what you think in the comments. I know some of you are joining from the United States. I know that some of you are joining from Canada. I don't know what time it is over there where you are, but I really want to appreciate your comment. So this is the update right now that we have. Instead of France to come in and just talk to the Sahelians as equals, they want to prove that paternalistic tendency is always there. But the result we are getting is telling us otherwise. That these people are seasoned, they are matured diplomatically, in terms of security, in terms of economy. They don't need France anymore. They've never needed France. All they needed was good leadership. And now that they have it, I just think, say no more. France should back off. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can give us your opinion in the comments. It's your boy representing the War Room. Signing out, enough said, but before I go, I really want to appreciate you all. I will see you in the evening when I get home. But right now, I'm outside and it's raining right now as I'm speaking. So, I'll get back to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be in the chat. I want to get your opinion and I will be responding. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet ourselves in the chat. So, thank you and God bless you.